So raise your hand if you're on Twitter. Probably. Okay, sweet. Fine. This is like first time I've been at an event where actually people are on Twitter, and it makes sense for me to have my handles up. So if you're live tweeting the event or anything, these are all the handles that I run, and obviously the hashtag FrontPorchIO. But yeah, first of all, a big thank you to FrontPorch, Chris, and Mina for having me. I'm excited to kind of get the word out here about Code Collective and everything I've been doing locally with our team, teaching kids how to code. So that'll be the focus of my talk. And a quick shout out to Refresh Dallas, if you guys haven't heard of it. That's actually where this whole talk originated. Was Jeff at Refresh was like, hey, come workshop that thing at our event. And I got a lot of great feedback from community members, and the presentation just kind of turned into a discussion about what's going on in Dallas and with our kids, and are they getting exposed enough to technology. And we as developers and designers can get involved. And so we had a great discussion, and thank you to them for having me a couple months ago. The next time you'll see me give this talk is at TEDx UTD, if you want to go. So it begins. All right, everything is bigger in Texas. I thought I would use this as a cheap ploy here, including the STEM education gap. Can you guys hear me okay? Feels a little weird. Okay. So those of you who aren't familiar, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And the STEM education gap here in Texas really refers to, let's say here in Dallas, for example, we have 35 high schools in DISD. Only 5 of them have a computer science curriculum. And that's actually because there are only 5 computer science teachers in DISD. So wrap your head around that. Just something to think about throughout the talk. And so what I've noticed here around Dallas is that our kids are really hungry for this stuff. They are digital natives. They're playing with their phones. They're on iPads. They're using technology at a very young age, and that causes them to start to get curious. You know, can I build an app like this? How do I start coding? They don't even. We're working with kids, 8, 9, 10 years old. They don't even know how to frame the questions. So sometimes you get things like, is this like I'll be telling some of these kids, we're going to be working on building your first website today. And the kid will ask me back, like, oh, is that like what NASA does? And I'll be like, sure, why not? Yeah, there's a NASA.gov, so yeah, sure. So here's just, I got some photos throughout here of programs we've done throughout the year. This is our Netiquette workshop that we did at the Grove a couple months ago, and this is actually with a Girl Scout troop, or 2 troops actually. And in this workshop, we taught them how to be safe, how to be appropriate online, and the age group was 10 to 12 years old. So technically, none of them are allowed to be on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that yet. So the goal was to educate them about the internet. Here's how to protect yourself. Here's safety tips, do's and don'ts about being online. Because I feel like regardless of whether these girls end up becoming developers and they're at FrontPorch 2030 or whatever, they're still going to need to know about how to be online in a safe way. So that's one of the things that we love doing at Code Collective. So I said, let's feed them. Let's feed them everything that we have access to, and let's give them healthy environments where they can learn coding, web development, design, maybe even bring them to some of our conferences like this. So I want everyone to kind of reflect here for a minute and just think about, how old were you when you started coding? And when I asked some of my friends this, you guys might have seen, if you're friends with me on Facebook, I posted this up late last night and got some responses as well. But the point here is that when we think about, presumably everybody in the room is maybe 25 and over. So when we think about when we started coding, it's probably, we first think about like a programming class we had in college. But when I kind of dug deeper and spoke to some of my friends, I also discovered that it wasn't really about that first programming class. It was really about some nerd camp that they did in elementary school where they were messing with Logo Writer, right? Or you're messing with some very simple game that wasn't really coding, but kind of got you thinking about how you can control and manipulate a computer or other kind of electronic device. So just something to think about. So I did a little bit of digging and found some notable people and when they started coding. So Jack Dorsey, obviously the founder of Twitter, started when he was 8. Dave Gupta, he's a local designer here, started when he was 10. Bill Gates at 13. Diego Neto, also want to give him a shout out, he's here, started at 18. And Mina started at 22. So just to show you there's a range, right? It's kind of it's my goal to expose everybody to coding, and I feel like the younger that child is, when they first get exposed, the more likely they are to succeed in the technology field. So I just like to point out, if you decide to get involved and volunteer with us, or maybe give back to your university or something in this way, just keep in mind that it makes a huge difference. So even if you spend a little bit of time mentoring a college student or going and volunteering at elementary, middle, high school, it can really make a huge impact on the rest of that child's life. So now I'm going to go into some facts about basically the state of affairs here in town. So Texas ranks 31st on the Science and Engineering Readiness Index. This is, you can kind of see in the URL, this is from 2011, so it's about 3 years old. But I think, especially as someone who's from Texas, I would like to see this number go up just out of my own Texas pride, but also the opportunities are here. I think just looking at the audience here today, we have a thriving, big, interconnected, dense developer ecosystem. And there's no reason why high school students should feel like they have to leave Texas in order to get into tech. So I think the better we do at exposing kids here locally to what we do in our day jobs, it's a kind of a win-win for the whole community. So I know no one can read this. But just to show you that the Texas Board of Education is doing annual reporting and tracking on certain metrics, which I think is a good sign. So for example, they're tracking the STEM degrees and certificates that are being awarded every year in public colleges, universities in Texas. And you can see there was kind of a dip around like 2004, 2005. And in the last 7 or 8 years, it's actually been consistently trending up. So I think that's a really good sign. It's good for Texas. And you can see against the target, we're still nowhere close to their 20-year or 15-year plan here, but things are looking good. And I think it's because of organizations like us, like Girl Develop It, like Women Who Code, who are out here encouraging kids and telling them that they can do it. Anything's possible for them, and it's not about trying to be Mark Zuckerberg. It's not about trying to be Bill Gates. It's just about being creative and learning to express yourself through technology. So I'm really excited that this number is trending upwards. Also, another fun fact, Hispanic students had by far the fastest growth in the STEM category compared to other demographics. So that's actually huge, not just for the Hispanic community, but just to see that the overall volume is growing among all of the different ethnic groups here in in Texas. So that's a big bottom line here is, STEM plus, it's a really good thing for the whole community. And it doesn't have to be with the intention of turning every kid today into a developer tomorrow. It's not, I don't think that's anybody's goal out here. I think the goal is exposure and showing kids, hey, here's how your iPhone works. Here's how that website works. Here's how NASA.gov works, if you really want to get into that. So this kind of moves into my next kind of call to action here and my next point about how we can grow the Dallas developer community. It's very interesting, I think, from a, just kind of a social science standpoint to watch how these developer communities grow and how they work. And I think it's, there's a bunch of different ways you could slice it, and you could look at the success or failure of developer meetup groups, corporate involvement with those, and so forth. But I really think it's pretty simple. It kind of, it's exciting to see that there are some new groups. I just did a search last night on Meetup. So if you're in Python or interested in DevOps, there are some brand new groups that just got created here in Dallas. And looks like some of the creators of the groups are here. But yeah, definitely check them out on Meetup. So there's pretty easy ways to make this community thrive and one of the key things is making it fun. And this is something that I learned from working with adults and from working with kids, is that people will get bored. You know, if I'm just like showing them lecture-like material or instructional material, people will fall asleep, and the community dies, or the interest around it kind of dies. So it's pretty simple to make things fun. And this is an example of where we did that at Kip Truth Academy. And we actually had we had 4 students, so it was kind of a small program, but we lined them up one-on-one with a volunteer who's either a professional developer or designer, and we had them work on their own projects. So quickly, I just want to share one of the stories of our student, Katie, who's there in the middle. So we asked all the kids, how do you want to change the world? How do you want to change your world with code? And we had them actually write essays and all this fun stuff. But so she wrote, and she told us, she said, I think it'd be really great if there was a website where families could bounce back from a tragedy and recover their home and recover their jobs. And that was amazing to hear. And she's 11. Like, she's 11 years old. I don't think she just pulled this out of thin air, this website idea. I think it's most likely because of things that she's been through. And that really struck me when we were in the program, and that, you know, this kid, this little girl, she's thinking that big. And when we can give her the tools to go and build that website, and start to conceptualize it and make it real and get on the whiteboard and actually help her make that thing possible, was really moving experience, I think, for all the volunteers. And that's kind of what keeps me up and at it, doing this kind of work. Another point, you know, whenever you're building these communities, be creative, and encourage other people in the groups to be creative. So if you're running a developer meetup, or say you're doing something internal at a large corporation, I really encourage people to be creative. Do show and tell. Have a space where people are invited to bring their ideas, bring their projects to the table, and share that openly with others. Because if we, as developers in the community, aren't expressing ourselves, then it kind of misses the whole point of why we're here, you know. So lastly, I say teach others how to teach. This is another really crucial point in creating a strong community anywhere. So even if you think about religion, for example, you know, if there's nobody teaching someone how to teach, then as soon as, like, say the pastor at that church retires or dies, there's no one to lead the congregation. So in any community, right, you got to be really focused on that too, teaching the next generation how to teach the next generation, and so on. So I'm going to shift gears and just tell a little bit of the story about Code Collective and how we got started with the nonprofit. Yes, that's the same logo on my shirt. So I think everyone's seen this quote from Steve Jobs. I think everyone in this country should learn how to program. I think we can all agree with that, especially because of the end of the quote here, because it teaches you how to think. And I think this is where, again, I like to reiterate and emphasize the point that we're not out here to turn every kid into a developer in the future. We're here to expose them to coding because it means so much in any discipline to be able to think systematically and analytically and creatively at the same time. So really love to share that quote. And then Barack Obama's been on this same kind of same platform, saying, don't just play with your phone, program it. And I think this has been a really brilliant campaign, and really something that supports us who are running nonprofits locally, and also like the national and global organizations like code.org. So really encouraging kids to get curious about how their devices work and how the internet works, how does wireless work, all these things that are now kind of taken for granted, just getting them to get curious about it. I wanted to also highlight some folks locally, because I think most of the audience here is from Dallas, so I want to give you guys direct connections to people who can give you programs to participate in, or help you find other ways to participate with kids here locally. Elisa Miller, follow her on Twitter. She was doing some of the earliest basically girls coding workshops in Dallas, like when the internet became the internet. She was teaching HTML to 10-year-old girls, and she's still doing it. Same with Nancy Hong. She ran a great program, first one to do it out in Denton, partnered up with an elementary school and started teaching them. I think they were using Scratch a couple years ago when it first came out, and getting involved with robotics as well. Obviously, Mina, who you guys are going to see again later today, doing Girl Develop at DFW, running the local chapter. So these are amazing people. And lastly, Robin Brown, she's my co-founder of Code Collective, and she kind of came on board after seeing there was such a big gap within the Girl Scouts, within the female demographic here in Dallas, to start closing the gender gap as well in STEM. So yeah, follow these people, give them a shout out. They're doing amazing work here in town, and I think it's worthwhile to spend, like I said, one day a year. I don't know, something small, but I think everyone can make the time, and I've been overwhelmed with the support that a lot of you have already given me. So Code Collective, that's our fun logo. That's our real logo. So total volunteer hours since January. These are some of our results that I'm excited about. We've logged over 250 service hours. That means 250 man hours working with kids, teaching them how to code. And so far to date, we've worked with 57 students. And I think the more exciting thing about this number is that we've had 57 volunteers as well. So one for each student. And that's a really big focus that we have, is making sure that we're not just getting one volunteer and 10 students and not having the one-on-one time. We really want to have time where the student can build a relationship with that mentor and trust them and really feel comfortable. I think that's what it takes for some of the younger kids, is seeing the same person, getting to know the person as well as the material that we're teaching. So, we did 57 this year, and this is our first year, and it's not even over yet. So I think by next year at this time, hopefully we'll be in the couple hundreds, if not more. Again, I just want to show that it's really fun to work with these kids. All of our volunteers have a blast. This is, again, a photo from our KIT program. And we actually had Shauna. I think some of you guys might recognize Carrie Craver as well. She's from here in town. But Shauna was basically Rackspace flew him in from California, because Rackspace does this amazing program where they pay for their employees to go travel and volunteer to teach kids how to code. So big props to them as well. This is our classroom space that we use at UTD. We got it donated earlier this year, and now basically on the weekends we're allowed to use their computer labs in the ATech building, which is super nice. So thank you to UTD. Again, here's some of our Girl Scouts, and I wish if I had more time, I'd show you their projects and stuff that they worked on. But they all made their first blog websites through our half-day workshop, and that was them really getting into it. And we like to take selfies, group selfies, whatever you want to call them. So where we're at as an organization, we're super small. It's me and Robin who run the thing, and this year we've collected $641.32 in donations, and all the money kind of helps us provide equipment for the students, food and transportation for the volunteers, and any other just kind of ancillary costs that come up. So if you want to help us out that way, yeah, obviously you can give us money. That's cool. And a big, here's the list. So this stuff doesn't just happen by magic. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens because these people and these organizations put in time, and they care about the same mission, which is, again, exposing the whole world to coding. So you guys might see some familiar names here. You might see some of these people in the audience. So if you guys are out here again, thank you for volunteering with us. So kind of to bring this thing to a close, back to the beginning, everything is bigger in Texas, and hopefully in the future, instead of that being our STEM education gap, that can be our developer community. I think Texas is really in a prime position to dominate in this way and to really grow and compete with your Californias and your New Yorks in terms of our developer community alone. So with that, I'm going to go into my live demo, so just give me just a second to switch to the browser. Okay, so I'm gonna preface this, and this is a tool called Scratch. This is our kid. This is like the kids' all-time favorite tool to use in our coding workshops. And I'll just show you. This took like 10 seconds to build. You can ask Diego. He saw me build it last night. It took about 10 seconds. Yeah. Yeah, it was super quick. So it's a very powerful tool. It's all like that kind of puzzle piece style coding, functional programming. So what I'm going to have you guys do is cheer and clap really loudly after I hit the start button. Okay, now you can all clap. Yes. All right, thank you guys. It's been a blast. So basically what happened here was it's taking in audio from the computer's mic, and then I just put in a little if thing to say if it's louder, make the size of the text bigger. But it's really fun. And you can do stuff like this with kids. It's fun for adults to use as well. But yeah, thank you again to FrontPorch, and excited to meet all of you later today. Thank you.